this gentleman is. Let's give a round of applause for John Morgan. So we're going to do a quick little Q&A with Linda and John, and then we are going to allow John to take control. Those of you who've never heard him speak, it's really the reason I was so driven to ask him to do this for us today. A lot of you know him in certain facets in the community, the country at this point, but if you've never heard him speak about his life and how he got where he was and the things he's done in his sales background, it will blow your mind. So it's by far one of the greatest things you'll ever hear. So I'm incredibly honored that he joined us today, and without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Linda.
Thank you, Shannon. Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have some fun. Okay, I'd like to just kind of kick off with, I want to dovetail onto what Mark Can talked about earlier when we talked about high-performing reps, and something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that's customer service, because I think it is a critical component of any great sales rep. So as I was kind of thinking about what are the four, because you went through several and you guys talked about the four qualities that I see, the three qualities that I look for and that are consistent, I think, and consistently found in every high-performing rep are, number one, I think you've got to be a smart marketer and a solution provider. You can't just be a commercial visitor and someone that your clients like. They really aren't looking for friends, they're looking for business partners. So you got to know what you're doing. You know, be a marketer and find solutions to help your clients be more successful. Number two, you need to be a strong negotiator. And you need to spend your time negotiating, not all your time negotiating with us, negotiate with clients. And the third thing is you need to be able to provide extreme customer service. And I know that probably everyone sitting here thinks they're very good in this area. And I can tell you that 100% of us need to improve in this area. And John and I are going to talk about this a little bit, but when I think about customer service, I think about how customer service is how you deal with your clients. Are you timely? Are you collaborative? Are you accurate? Are you responsive? Are you flexible? Are you solution-oriented? Are you all those things? Because that's what your clients are looking for. So these are some terms that you guys need to lose out of your vocabulary. We don't do that. We can't do that. No, that won't work. It's too late for me to do that. We're sold out. My management won't let me. That doesn't help me. I can't get to that until tomorrow, next week, next month. Instead, you need to replace those terms with things like, let me work on a solution that we can all live with. That might be difficult, but I'm sure there's a way to achieve what you need to get done. And that's what I'm going to try to do. How about, I'm going to need a little more time to get this done right. What is my absolute deadline that you absolutely have it? And is there a part of this I can work on to get you first? Instead of I'm sold out. Our inventory's tight, I'm sure you know that. Can you give me some options to work with while I'm working internally to try to clear up some inventory? And last, let me work with my manager to find some options for us. Agree?
So far, so good.
Okay, Mr. Morgan. By the way, we're filming this so that we can share with the other markets, the other iHeart markets where you do business, that they don't have the wonderful opportunity that we have to hear you in person. So I have not shared these questions with John because he doesn't need any prep. My first question to you is, what are your pet peeves and things that sellers say to you that kind of send you over the edge?
the number one thing that sends me over the edge is we're number one. Because everybody's number one somewhere. And I find that sellers try to come in with this eyewash, I'm number one. I may be number one drive time, I may be number one midday, but everyone's number one. And so I don't want to hear that. What I really want to hear is numbers, eyeballs, eardrums, because everybody's, even the lowest station is number one somewhere. One of the best things that was ever said to me was by one of your competitors, Mary McCulloch. And she had a station that she was selling way back when. We were all little and skinny back in those days. And didn't use dye on our hair. And Mary came in, I'm not talking about me. And Mary came in to see me, and her station sucked. And I said, Mary, your station sucks. And she said these words, I know that. Pay me what it's worth. Did two things for me. One, now I trusted her. Then. And then it also said to me, yeah, pay what it's worth. You don't have to be number one. We're basically buying eyes and ears, and with a cost per thousand. So as long as I'm dealing in those ways, it doesn't matter if you're number one or number 11, as long as I'm paying what it's worth. So I'm number one, and that's TV, radio, everything's number one. So that's my pet peeve.
What do you consider great customer service?
Great customer service.
Share any examples like that you have.
Well, that was great. Listen, the greatest customer service you can ever give is when the customer believes that you're on their side and not on the side of your company. It's a real balancing act. But when your customer believes that you're for them and not for them, then you start to trust that rep. When you get the impression that all you are is a commission and they don't care if you succeed or fail, then that's a problem. When you can convince your customer that you are on their side. Years ago, when I first started advertising, there was a rep at Channel 9 who went to Rollins with Stuart Colling and was great friends with Stuart Colling and was giving us the best rate on the station. And we didn't need to negotiate. And then I found out that not only was it not the best rate, it wasn't anywhere near the best rate. Then I realized that Brian Fatigatti was not my friend. I fired him immediately. I think he's still around somewhere. Yes. Probably the manager somewhere, but and that was it for Brian Fatigatti. Because I never trust him again. Because if you lose that trust one time, it's over. That was 30 years ago.
That was kind of leading into my next question, which was examples of poor customer service.
That's an example when you just lie, when you get caught in a lie. Because you can lie a million times, but over time the lies always catch up with you. You can only bullshit somebody so many times until they smell the bullshit. I wrote a book called You Can't Teach Vision. And in the book I have a chapter called Dog Shit. And it's like chapter 14. And dog shit goes like this. In our lives, we've all been walking around out in the dark at some point in time. And you feel your shoe kind of slide. and you say to yourself, fuck. And you worry that you stepped in dog shit. But you keep walking because you're hoping it was pine needles and wet leaves. And the further you walk in the car, you get to the car, and then you get in the car and you shut the door. And then when you shut the door, there's this smell. And the smell that I'm describing, every one of you all knows that smell. And not one time in my life have I ever swung the door open, looked at the bottom of my shoes, and there not been dog shit. When you smell, this is a rule to take for life, in business, and personal relationships, and everywhere you go. If you smell dog shit, there is always dog shit. When I think of Brian Fattigaddy, I think of dog shit. And once you got dog shit, once you walk that way, you'll never walk that way again. So, I hope that, I like examples so you can not forget stuff, not forget shit.
You've actually been on both sides of the desk. So, started your career as a salesperson. And to this day, I think you're still one of the greatest salespeople I've ever known. You're selling every day. What do you think that a salesperson can do right away to improve their customer service quotient, so to speak, with their clients?
It's a very fine line because you want to be there enough to make them know you care, but not be there enough that you become a pest. It's a very fine line. You know, I used to, you know, when it was smaller, I used to take lunches and dinners, and I don't do that anymore because it's just not worth it for me. But I think the fine line is that when you're walking in that door, don't be walking in for you. Be walking in for them. If you're walking in for you, you're a pest. If you're walking in for them, you're an asset to that business.
What are the things that a rep can provide you that you feel, or you get tons of communication and stuff, but what are the things they can provide you that you will look at or that you might feel like that's good information?
Well, look, I'd like to know, you know, at the end of the day, in all my businesses, and in this business too, at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. At the end of the day, unless, you know, over time, the numbers don't lie. You can have a bad book. You can, you know, Excel can be finished 6, you know, that's just a bad, everybody has a bad book. It's just not accurate. It can't be. But over time, the numbers don't lie. And so what I like to know is what the numbers are for you all and for the competitors, and what's going on in the marketplace. Has a format changed? You know, I know you're supposed to tell us when formats change. Sometimes people don't. I think your best bet is always to make an immediate call to the customer before the change. I'm sure it's probably eating from a high, but they don't want to be surprised with, I was buying country and now I'm buying punk. They don't want to hear that. And so when you bring information about the marketplace, that's helpful. When you bring long-term numbers, that's helpful. And one of the things that motivates people, as you all know, is what's your competitor doing. A lot of times people will spend money because their competitors are. So I want to know what the real numbers are over time. I want to know about changes in the marketplace, and I'd like to know about my competition.
When was the last time you got a handwritten note from someone?
Today. But you don't get a lot.
Did it have an impact?
Yeah, it had an impact, and
Was it from a salesperson?
no, it was a long note. I got it today. And I run a radio ad and talk about, life is short, and sometimes we don't speak to people for a long time, and before we know it, that loved one dies, and we never get a chance to say goodbye. And the ad goes on. You all probably maybe heard the ad. I got a letter today from a woman who heard the ad, hadn't spoke to her sister in 20 years. You know, make a long story short, reached out to her sister. Her sister didn't reach back. Sent another letter. The sister sent back an old band jacket that she had of this lady's. They flew out. They reunited. The sister got cancer, died, but she got to say. So, but yeah, it's unusual.
When was the last time you got one as a thank you note?
From a rep. I get them, but not listen. We don't get many written. Politicians always send handwritten notes. They're the best salespeople in America. But yeah, it's there's not a lot.
What's something that someone has done to thank you that for business that you remember?
I remember this woman up in Memphis, because I had a dispute with her station, and came off the air, and then went back on the air once and she wrote me telling me that my business was the difference between her almost survival, it seemed like, but that I made a difference in her personal life by staying as her customer, and it was impactful. Last name Duggars up in Memphis.
You need to hire her.
Yeah, but she wrote me and said,
That's good. Did you work for iHeart?
her name was Duggars, maybe it's in Jackson or Memphis, but I remember her writing me that and saying that, you didn't have to come back, but the commissions that I make off of your account were the difference between, survival and not survival. Then I thought to myself, fuck, I'm paying too much money on this station.
Of course you did.
Renegotiate.
What about something that, because everybody tries to get to you, people you are doing business with want to get to you to touch base, have lunch, have drinks, people that aren't doing business with you constantly trying to, I get a lot of calls myself, how can I get to John? What's something unique that someone did to get you to respond that might come to mind, or just any suggestion overall about, because we deal with that every day, clients that we just can't get to respond, can't get in the door with.
Well, it's different for me now because we're in so many cities. We're in, 45 or 46 cities, 11 states. But I would just say that when people have gotten to me, they have written me with an idea that I thought was novel. And, there's been lawyers who've written to me about their practice areas. And said, I know you don't have that. And I've actually met them and done it. But look, I hate to tell you all this, but Michelle Sheck at Pandora called and called and called and called and called and called and called. And I'm intrigued by Pandora. I know you all say Iheartmedia is Pandora. But she kept at it, and I liked the metrics. I liked the formula of Pandora. I was intrigued by the analytics of Pandora, and they did it in a way that wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. Like Goldilocks said, it was just right. And I ended up making I make a $500,000 buy because it was factual. What she was saying was factual. And I doubted the facts. I was skeptical of the facts one day, but I finally convinced myself over time, and she did do it in a way, Michelle, who was in this market a long time ago, some of you probably know her, some of you may not, and so, but she did it in a way that wasn't offensive. I didn't feel like it was, although I know it's for her at the end, although Pandora, they don't get commission necessarily, but I also felt like it was for me. And so that was the last time. Now she knew me from, back when she dated Pete DeSimone and dumped him unceremoniously. Left him for a biker or something like that. Shocked. He's still reeling over it 30 years later. But that was the last time.
Well, I think that there's a great lesson in that, because I think where I started when I talked about traits of high-performing sellers, I talked about being marketers and being solution providers. And I think too often we think if we just build a friendly relationship with the client, if we just take them out to lunch or talk about our kids or figure out, what kind of tickets they want, that we will get in the door and maybe be able to do business with them. And I think what John was just saying is, where Michelle wore him, she's a great rep. Where she wore him down over time was by slowly putting enough facts in front of him. And he's not easy, because he'll tell you right off the bat, when you start that, I don't need to hear any of that. But over time, you obviously read what she sent you, and
it took her the first lunch when they flew the Pandora people down to the last meeting with her, with my people from Brooklyn. It was at my beach house in December. It probably took her a year and a half to get that sale. One of the things, I tell, one of my mottos in life is, nothing is about today, everything is about tomorrow. A lot of people want immediate gratification, but when you really build a relationship, it comes over time, and it comes with facts, not bullshit. It doesn't come with, cocktails are always great, but that's not what, you're not going to buy $500,000 for drinks. I can buy so much liquor with $500,000. I got a tap in my bedroom and just wake up, gargle with it, but for $500,000. So I would say that when you get the client, you think it can be the long-term client. That's a long-term process, and that quick kill, that quick commission, you can really foil yourself. Because you go in with dog shit all over the bottom of your shoes, and they smell it, and they will never, ever let you back in that door, because they know what you're going to track in.
This is the last question I'm going to ask. I don't want to just let you freeform. I want to talk about negotiation, because you're very difficult to negotiate with, and you told me something many years ago that I've heard you repeat over and over and never forgot it, and that's that, you know what I'm going to say, because I'm everywhere, I don't have to be anywhere. So I don't need your stations, and you don't, because you are everywhere. So it's tough to negotiate with someone that comes from that point of view. So, because it's one of the most important things we do every day, because a negotiation gone wrong can be very, very costly for us. Often it can cost us a client. And I know that you've ended relationships because of negotiations gone wrong. But talk about, and spend whatever time you want, because I think it's a really, really important subject. Talk about the balance there, and what your expectations are from the rep, and how they can walk that line. In your opinion, you've seen it done really well over the years, and you've seen it done really poorly.
Well, I would say that, first of all, if you're not prepared to sell, don't sell. And some of you have been thrust in this position, not because of iHeart, but because of all of them with your digital. There are so many people. Now, I have a center in Brooklyn where I employ 80 people. That's where all my digital and social media, I mean, I know a lot about digital. I have people devoted, it looks out on the Statue of Liberty, and I got people walking around with pink hair and bones through their noses. And we feed them all day long, they never leave. There's ping pong and skateboarding. And so I know that, but all of a sudden everybody thinks digital. And then the people say, go out and sell it, sell. You've seen the Kermit the Frog thing before. And then you just walk in, not knowing shit from Shiloh, to sell digital. And even people who don't know digital can tell when you're bullshitting about what you don't know. So I would say, from a negotiating, if you're going to go sell something, you really need to be prepared to sell it. You may be talking to a dummy, but you may be talking to somebody that's very smart. And once you miss negotiate, you never get back in that door, ever. Getting in, that's one thing. Getting back in after a miscalculation is a whole other. And what you can do is you can damage the whole cluster's ability to get back in. Because one person who goes out and does that. So I would say for the negotiation, the ones that I have found to have been the best are the ones who listen a lot and who try to figure out exactly what it is I'm selling. Some people come in selling without even hearing about your business. Well, how can you sell me what you don't know that I need? And really, listening is way more important than selling. Because if you don't listen and if you don't hear, you can't sell. And so I have found that the people who have been the best at what they do come in and do a lot of fact finding first. And then when they do speak, they're now speaking, they're not just selling you whatever will make their commission, but they're selling you what you may need. And so for negotiating, I would make sure I know what I'm negotiating. I would make sure I know what it is they want, what it is I'm up against, who are they using, what are they doing, how do they get their business. There's so many questions before you can actually sell that person. And then the other thing that I will tell you that I've always found helpful in negotiation is the more honest you are, the more likely you are to have that trust. When a rep has said to me, listen, John, when I say, and I do say, I don't need to be anywhere because I'm everywhere, and that is true, and I do have that advantage. That if I come off there, I've taken you off the air for a year. But so I really can do it, but on the other hand, when a rep comes in and says, look, I hear what you're saying, and they actually will recommend, look, they say, John, listen, for the money you're trying to spend, we got 2 stations that you have to have. You have to have XL, and you have to have 104.1. But you also need K. See, rumble because it's hers. No, but they tell you something that's not in their best interest. That listen, if you really want to go out and get 80% of the market, I can't do that for you because there's a piece of mind that's missing. I don't have country and wolf is shit. So go to Beth and buy K. And so in the negotiations, when you hear something that way, what is it you're hearing? They're not speaking in their best interest. They're speaking in your best interest. Years ago, when my children were little, I have one son, Mike, who was just money. I mean, Mike was the perfect child. I mean, he just did nothing wrong. And I never spanked Mike. And it was Christmas night. And I went downstairs. Now, it was only Mike who was like 5, and Matt was like 3 or 6. And we had them like this. I mean, boom, 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 boom. They just kept coming. I should have. If I would pee on a rock, there'd be a potato there the next day. They just were coming. But so I had there like 6, 4, 3. It just was a shit show over there. So I come downstairs, it's Christmas night, and I come down, and all of the hurricane flashlights are out and turned on. And I'm like, motherfucker, I mean, this is just, what is, on the washing machines. So I go upstairs, now I'm gonna narrow it down. It's not my wife. We know that. Dan is in a bassinet, and Kate's in a crib. I got 2 suspects. Mike the good and Matt the terrible. I already know who did it. I didn't have to ask who did it. I knew who did it. It was Matthew. They're sleeping in a room together. I walk in, I said, guys, flashlights are on, blah, 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 blah. Both of them. Daddy, I didn't do it. Daddy, I didn't do it. No, not me. I'm going back and forth. I said, listen, I don't give a shit. Just tell me. It's Christmas. Don't fuck Christmas up again. We've made it to this point. It's 9 o'clock. Stop. Just admit it. I'm in a jovial mood. Matt is now up on the bed, swearing to God, swearing on his soul, swearing on his sisters, swearing, I didn't do it. And I finally looked over at Mike and I go, look. I said, Mike, did you do it? He said, Daddy, I did not do it. I then look at Matt, I go, Matt, you did it. Because I trust Mike so much. I didn't spank Matt on Christmas night. I spanked him. I said, Matt, he goes, I didn't do it. I spanked him again. He said, I didn't do it. I spanked him. He said, I did it. I said, why the fuck didn't you just say that? He said, because I really didn't do it. I'm like, this is a pathological liar. I got, little Ted Bundy back here. In the twin bed. So I go to bed and I tell Alton, I said, that damn Matthew, lied over nothing. And we go to bed. Right before the lights go out, the door opens and Mike is standing there in his Christmas footy pajamas. And he says, Daddy, I think you need to call Santa Claus. And I think you need to tell him to come back and take all of my clothes, all my toys back to the North Pole. I said, why? He said, I'm the one that got into the hurricane flashlights. And I'm like, Mike, my God, you just saw me spank Matthew in front of you for lying because I trusted you so much. Now, I've always spanked Mike one time in my life, and that was that night. And we went back in and I said, Matt, I don't know where to begin. I said, but Mike lied. And I spanked Mike. And then I left the room. But when I left the room, I told Mike, I said, Mike, I trusted you so much. Your word was so valuable to me that I spanked Matt because you said you didn't do it. I want you to understand this. It is going to take a long time for me to ever build that trust with you ever again. a broken trust is very hard to repair, especially with the customer, especially when it's over money. And then I left them there, and I wanted to hear how those brothers would deal with that. So I listened by the door. And I said, I heard Mike say, "Hey, Matt." Matt says, "Yeah, Mike." He said, "I'm sorry, I lied on you." And Matt said, "That's okay, Mike." The moral of that story, the Irish are very forgiving.
How old were they? I mean, how old were they?
6 and 4. They still believe in Santa Claus.
Oh, wait, there's not a Santa?
There is a Santa Claus. Now I talk.
Yeah. Oh, you. Thank you.
So I will just say a few things to help you all be better in your business and do better for yourself and do better for your families. I come from a unique position to give this speech because before I went to law school, I sold Yellow Pages. And I sold it at a time where the Yellow Pages was the internet of that time, 1980. And so I've actually done what you do. Later in life, I bought a billboard company. I didn't buy it, I built a billboard company here in Orlando. And I built it up to a huge, huge business. It's called Beach Outdoor. I had it all over the state of Florida. And ultimately, Lamar made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I mean, a gigantic offer. So I sold Beach Outdoor.
Bless you.
God bless you. And a gigantic multiple. And then I also had the perspective of being a customer. So I sold Yellow Pages. I sold billboards. And I bought all of it. Morgan & Morgan has been around 30 years this year. That's how long it's happened. I know you all look at me and say, "My God, you look 40. How could that be?" I mean, but when I was young, I hated having a fat face because I hated having a fat face. But as I'm getting older, I'm kind of glad I got a fat face because my friends are now starting to get drawn and look gaunt. And I believe over time I will ultimately actually be chiseled before it's all over. So the fat face keeps you a little bit youthful looking. So I've done all of that. And I will tell you the one thing that I can save you a lot of time, I can save your managers a lot of time, and I can save the powers that be a lot of time by telling you this about that. If you do not believe in what you're selling, you should quit tonight. You should just quit tonight. If you believe that this is really not working, if this digital is really bullshit, if iHeartRadio is nowhere near Pandora, if you don't believe it, you can never sell it. You can never sell it. When I sold Yellow Pages, they didn't even have half-page ads. It was a quarter page. And back in those days, it was really like 3 or 4 channels in 1980, or 1978 to 80s when I sold it. They had, a quarter page was as much as you could buy, 1 quarter page. Now they got, you open the Yellow Page like a jack in the box jumps out of it. Boing! There's transmissions in your lap. But I fully believed that if that customer did not buy that, they were hurting their business. I really believed it. And I believed it so much that those year and a half, I sold more Yellow Page dollars. This is all verifiable, so I'm saying it on tape. I sold more Yellow Pages than anybody else it was Southern Bell at the time, in the Southern Bell system. I sold more. I made more money than anybody. I made, as a 21-year-old kid, $77,000 in commissions selling Yellow Pages 32 years ago. The reason I made that money is I believed it. I really believe that if you were a transmission company, did transmissions or mufflers or beauty salons or whatever back in those days, if you weren't there, you were going to go out of business. So I had an advantage in believing that what my product was going to make this person more money. And because of that, I was able to sell like crazy. Because when you believe, you're able to sell like crazy. When you're in there selling, ads in the church bulletin, that's a hard sell. When you're out there selling, a lot of things that we see, that's a hard sell. But the first thing you have to do as salespeople is you got to look yourself in the mirror. You got to have a come to Jesus talk or come to Moses talk, whichever the case may be, or whoever you talk to, and say, do I believe in what I'm doing? And if you don't believe it, get out. Because if you don't believe it, you will be out sooner than later. It always comes up. And when and sometimes people are fired and they're pissed until they realize it was really a favor. Now they get to get on with life. So the first thing I would tell you all is to have a real talk to yourselves and say, do I believe in radio? Do I believe when I walk in there with a straight face that I believe in it? With my billboard company, the reason I was so bullish on billboards is I believed over time that with the internet and with DVRs and all of that, I believed that billboards were going to be even more important in the world. So I had no trouble investing millions and millions of dollars in buying this billboard company up. And I think I was proven right. Every day that goes by, the billboards become more and more important. And Morgan & Morgan, when we started this thing 30 years ago, we started with a $100,000 budget. The TV station wanted me to pay COD. If you all know what that means, cash on delivery, before they even run my ads. And so I built a career out of selling Morgan & Morgan to whether it's Boston or Philadelphia or Orlando or wherever. But I will tell you along the way, this last year, I hate to even say this number because then Linda's going to be going, what percent of that did I get? But last year, everything I do, ClassAction.com, Morgan & Morgan, all of it, we spent right at $100 million in advertising. Two things that go along with that. One, I am not spending that in places that I don't believe are advantageous to me. Number two, as I have built this firm, I have believed that it's very important for me to get on television or radio, that I make sure that I need to have a firm that I also believe in. Now, there's a lot of firms out there that advertise. Most of them, if there was a medical malpractice case on my dog, I wouldn't go to them. Because there's a lot of shit lawyers, and I know who they are. And they eat by, they don't make that much money, but they run through cases. But for me, to get on the television and to ask somebody to come to me, I wanted to make sure that I built a firm that I would send my family to, that I would go to myself. And so in building your organization, and in speaking to the managers here, you have to build a team that you believe in. When I walk in my lobbies and I see people there, I always go up and talk to them because I know they've come to the right place. And over time, we've had gigantic results. We had $1.2 billion for black farmers a few years ago. We get huge $100 million verdicts against the tobacco industry. We got a big case going in Chicago right now, a bellwether case for low T pharmaceutical, and I have 400 lawyers, but I have a group that I believe in. And so for the managers, you all have to make sure that you're sending people out who share your values and believe like you believe. So I will say this about what you all do every day. You all have a great challenge because the world is changing. You know, from the beginning when I was there, it was real simple. There was 3 or 4 channels, and then all of a sudden there was, channel 65. That, remember that one, Linda? And it was like 5 all of a sudden. And there was a few radio stations, and there was the yellow pages and billboards. The world you all live in is much more complicated because, where do you who is your competition? Well, the first thing you got to understand is your competition can be everywhere. Your competition is the internet. Your competition is television. Your competition is YouTube. Your competition is Facebook. It's social media. It's billboards. It's all that. If I were selling, if I were you all, here's what I think would be the best sales tools. Let me try to refresh myself here. The best sales tools. I'd want to walk in, and here's what I want to be able to say to my customer. First of all, to me, the single greatest sales tool that I ever had selling Yellow Pages was this. Before the book would start, we would go through the book and we would put stickers. 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that the customer has been with us. I didn't carry all the other bullshit, the population, all that. There's a lot of stuff, but I did carry that. I carried the book. I believe that the best sales tool you have is proof. You remember when we were little, they told us the proof is in the pudding. When I would go sell those Yellow Pages, I would turn. I'd get to the beauty salons. I'd turn page after page. They've been here 10 years. They've been here 5 years, 15, turning. Remember what I said in the question and answer. The numbers don't lie. If I was going into selling what you all sell, I would have that category and those buyers in my hip pocket. And I would be saying, do you think that David Moss is spending this money year after year after year after year? And then I would turn the page and I would say, here's Holler. And then I would turn the page and I'd say, here's Toyota. And I'd turn the page. I don't believe there's anything more effective than showing a customer what smart, successful people have been doing for a long, long, long time. Because you say, you know what, maybe they know something that I don't know. I think that has got to be, for me, would be my tool number one if I was selling what you're selling. The next thing I would do is I would come in And I'll tell you a question that I don't like, that I know you're trained at yell at radio school. What's your budget? You know, fuck you. That's my budget. But you can find out, if you are patient. Some people sell like a Doberman on a lunge line. You ever seen those Dobermans or dogs chained up, just stretching to the veins? You're like, hell, that motherfucker gonna get loose. That chain gonna hold. That's how a lot of people come in. When I sold Yellow Pages, it turned out to be really one of the great things in my life because I learned so much. I was a boy in the real world. And when we went to school, we went down to Coral somewhere for it seemed like forever. But one of the things they taught me is something I believe is still worth repeating. They had this picture of the salesman going in, and they had like a third eye sticking out of his forehead. There was an eyeball and an eyeball, and then there was a third eye. And what they taught us was, when you go in, you got to go in and fact find. You got to walk in and don't start selling the moment you walk in. Don't rush in and just get it all out in once, because you're getting ready to learn a lot. If you're patient, remember, nothing is about today, everything's about tomorrow. This may be the first meeting. You may say, I'm not even trying to close you, I just want to understand what your needs are. I'm going to come back with something. A lot of people can't do that, especially if they think they got a buyer. Because somebody may buy this, but a real buyer will buy that. And sometimes you leave so much money on the table just because you're so eager to get that little commission. So I believe that if I was in charge, I would spend a lot of time teaching you how to look and listen. You walk into an office, there's two different types of people. There's a guy with his clean desk, and maybe 2 pictures, and a pad of paper. That's your analytical. That's the analytical guy. That's the guy that wants facts and figures. You walk in another guy's office, there's shit everywhere. His feet are up on the desk, tons of pictures of him and his family. That's another guy. That's the guy who wants to bullshit, who wants to talk. It doesn't matter which one you run into, but at that point in time is when the selling really begins, is with the questions. One thing that I will promise you, nobody likes to do anything more than talk about themselves. And nobody likes to talk more about anything than their success. One of the things I used to say, even if I was in a bullshit office, I would say to the client, the Yellow Pages, I'd say, what do you attribute all this success to? You can't get the motherfucker to shut up when you say that. How did all this happen? You always wake up and pinch yourself and go, how did I do this? And then they're going to start talking. Why do you think you're different? Why do you think you did so much better than the hair cuttery? What's the difference? And you start getting those. Now this takes time. You've already apprised, who is this person? It takes a little time to figure out who they are, what their needs are. But if you spend that time, you're a gator, you went to Florida, you went to, went to FSU, okay. You did poorly on the SATs. Sorry about that. But never do that, by the way. But you go in and you fact find, and then now you have something here. Instead of rushing in like that Doberman on the lunch line, you're listening. It's coming to you. Where do you advertise? What do you do? What have you found to be most effective? with all this, this success, or in this startup you've had so far, what have you found to be most effective? And they start talking and talking. Now they may say, look, the internet. So now you make a note, okay, this person maybe not sold on this. I'm on Pandora, okay? We got iHeart. I like digital, okay? Digital. And through this process, you start to learn, listen, learn, and listen. And then all of a sudden now, for the first time, you have the real opportunity to sell effectively. We can all sell, but do you sell effectively? I was so good at the yellow pages that at the end they would say to me, when the salesman had, everything was canceling, everything was coming out of the book, it was all done, I would go in and make that sale to save that account. And I did it because it may take an hour or so, but I listened and I learned from that person. When you do that, you're going to have a great opportunity. The other thing that I would say to you is this, and this is the two last mistakes that are made. Number one, when somebody is ready to buy, shut the fuck up. Because I have seen so many people talk past the sale and say that one thing like, I guess, Pandora doesn't bother you. What's Pandora? Once you have made the sale, pull the pin out, put the cap on, hand it to them, make a little X, and physically put the pin in their hand. I'm sorry. And the other thing that I think was good for me when I sold is I would always sell and sell and sell, even though I knew I'd oversold. I'd get to a point where I'd let the customer say no. How about a little ad over here? No, that's enough. Okay, you win. You're smart. I understand. You know what's best. When they get to say no, they feel like they've won. When you walk out and they've bought everything, that's when buyer's remorse can start going in. Don't be too fancy with it. Throw something out that's totally nonsensical. Hey, are you interested in, our whatever? No, this is enough. Okay, you know what? Now you said no. So, the moral of the story is this. Have the facts. Be prepared. Don't overtalk the sale. Facts matter. The numbers don't lie. And over time, if you look around, the best reps in every market that I'm in basically do it that way. There's enough interaction, not to be too much interaction, but there's enough interaction to know I appreciate your business. Because two of the words that nobody ever will complain about anywhere, anytime, is thank you. And so I want to close by saying thank you for letting me share with you today.
Thank you, John.